The former boxing champ is no stranger to fighting through the aftermath of his own screw-ups.
The tag will be back.
One member lost one of his eyes on camera, while the others kept drilling. Another lost his entire fortune on screen and was never seen on the show again. And one worker had spent 45 years building a $26 billion company only to sell it all because he was dying. These are the men behind Black Gold, the show that appeared to be a competition on the surface but turned out to be something much darker. These are just 10 of the tragedies that occurred because of it, and one involves a deadly incident that still hasn't been legally addressed. Jerry Jewell. He was the senior supervisor who only stepped in to lend a hand on the rig floor, but ended up losing one of his eyes to a massive spinning chain. This wasn't a close call or a near miss, and just like that, Jerry Jewell immediately went blind in one eye. How it happened was unsettling. It was season 2 of Black Gold, but the deadline was pressing, and the crews were worn down. Jerry stepped in to lend a hand. But what he stepped into was the path of a spinning chain, the kind used to torque together 30-foot sections of drill pipe. And when that chain snapped, it came right at his face and destroyed his eye. Sadly, there is no recovery arc for Jerry in the episodes that followed ever since. He left with one eye, but the show went on like nothing happened that day. Yet his story would only be the beginning of many tragedies. Peanut. They called him Peanut. He started work with his crew on day 1, but tragically sustained major injuries on the very first day of filming. The episode was named Disaster in the Field, and Peanut could not make it to day 2, as his arms were crushed so hard that the doctors at the time said what's left of the broken bones might keep him out of work for good. How it happened was beyond disturbing. It was the first day of the competition, before the Longhorn rig had even started drilling. And while the man was working, a piece of heavy equipment came down on him. He was able to recover and return to the show, but many things had gone wrong with him. The permanent damage done to his body left him in constant pain, and the medications that helped him cope with it quickly became an addiction. The personal struggles that ensued from this were nothing short of catastrophic. As the ever-increasingly difficult seasons came and went, it became clear that Peanut's biggest battle on and off the clock was with heavy partying and alcohol. He was always trying to get the edge off his physical and mental struggles with pain, so much so that he kept failing to show up for morning shifts, because he stayed out drinking too late the night before. Some viewers today, even after a decade following the accident, believe it would have been for the best if Peanut never returned to the show after the accident on day 1. He had come to West Texas to chase big dreams, but left with an injury that now permanently ruined his quality of life. Brandon Watson. While some people's lives after starring in a show like this become a footnote, Brandon Watson's life after Black Gold was an entire criminal record. He was the man who beat a member of his own crew so badly that the man pressed felony charges. After that, the man got 2 DUIs and hit and runs in 2013 before ending the show. On top of that, he became a fugitive in 2021 for assaulting a peace officer. Then, sometime in 2022, he showed up uninvited at a house in Minnesota, fought a man named Joseph Scogan, and ended the person's life. Watson pleaded guilty in 2024 and went to prison. How did all this happen so fast? Brandon Watson came to Black Gold as a driller. He was the central figure of seasons 2 through 5, but was also the most volatile person on the rig. His personality was what made the episodes dramatic and more interesting than it was intended to be, which was a good thing for any reality project seeking to make more money on television. But by season 4, what was once dismissed as an angry but interesting personality type had now become a pattern of violence that couldn't be ignored. What made this obvious was the famous assault on Aaron Wheeler. It became the show's most discussed episode, and something very interesting happened. After a small disagreement, Watson attacked Aaron, and he pressed felony charges in response. Watson turned himself in to federal marshals, and after a while, he kept working. Then in April 2013, he was arrested for driving under the influence and a hit-and-run incident. Then he got arrested for a second hit-and-run. Both events involved alcohol and drugs. And for this reason, True TV canceled the 6th season, originally planned to come out now long afterwards. The show was done, yet the crime wave wasn't over. In November 2021, Midland Crime Stoppers listed Watson as a fugitive wanted in Texas for assaulting a peace officer and a judge. He had been indicted and was still refusing to respond to local authorities. Then came the reportedly insane incident of December 2022 in Fridley, Minnesota. Watson arrived uninvited at a person's home. Joseph Darrell Scogan was there as a guest, and a fight broke out. A witness saw Watson at the bottom of a stairwell holding an unidentified object. Not long after that, Scogan lost consciousness and was pronounced dead. The Anoka County medical examiner ruled the death a homicide. Watson pleaded guilty to third-degree assault in January 2024. The manslaughter charge that had been added to the complaint was dropped as part of the deal. The victim's family spoke publicly, feeling his short-term punishment because he pleaded guilty was too merciful given the crimes he committed. One woman who shared a son with Scogan pointed out that she had once served 2 years in prison for a minor drug charge, and now the man who killed the father of her child was getting the same sentence or less. She said she could not find justice in this ruling, saying she thought about Scogan every day because her child was hurt from not seeing the father. Brandon Watson was sentenced to 2 years in prison in March 2024. Yet what came for the next person was the end of his life. Tank Hannon. He was 49 years old when he passed away. Many tragic occurrences marked his life up until that point. He had just buried his father, survived a divorce, failed a major drug test on camera, had physical alterations that almost landed him in prison, and a fitness career that never quite replaced the oil industry he left behind. Yet just one detail about his passing was what felt the most concerning to fans around the world. As of the making of this video, the real cause of death remains a mystery, and the people who knew him only found out by searching his name after an episode rerun and stumbling upon an obituary. His name was Terrence Patrick Hannon, but the name that stuck was Tank. And for most people who watched Black Gold, he was the most familiar person in the show. Tank Hannon was born on May 18, 1966, in Midland, Texas, co-captained his high school football team, earned a college degree from Eastern New Mexico University in 1990, and then spent 15 years in the family oil business alongside his father, Charles, and his brother. That was supposed to be the career, but Tank wanted something else. He left to pursue personal training and boxing, competed in amateur tournaments, and carried those athletic years into middle age. When Black Gold found him, that image was everything the show needed. He was big, charismatic, and he was not afraid of confrontation on camera. The drug test failure was real, and so was the barroom brawl where he lost his title to Cheston McElhaney, as well as his return in Season 4 to settle that score. What happened off-screen was much harder to see. His first marriage to Renee Lynn McLeod ended in divorce in 2009. They had 3 children, but his father Charles passed away in 2007. Tank was buried next to him later. He remarried on March 18, 2010. It was also his 44th birthday. His wife Jennifer brought triplets into the family. Tank became their stepfather, and this made them 7 children in total. between his own and his stepchildren. By the accounts of people who knew him, this was the version of his life he had been working toward. What sources from the time describe is that he had been in poor health for several years before the end. He had undergone multiple surgeries. The exact cause of his death was never officially confirmed publicly, but accounts from those close to him pointed to chronic illness affecting his heart and lungs. Then, on March 30th, 2016, Terrence Patrick Hannon died in Odessa, Texas. He was 49 years old. Jennifer was by his side when this happened, and he was buried at Sunset Memorial Gardens in Odessa, next to his father, Charles. Autry Stevens. This was the once wealthy and powerful man who famously spent 45 years refusing to sell the company he built from one well and his life savings. He said no to every offer, every buyout, every partner who came knocking. But in February 2024, he finally said yes, and the reason was painful. He had fatal cancer, and he was running out of time. Diamondback Energy paid $26 billion for his company, and Autry died 6 months later. The deal closed 1 month after the funeral. In 1979, he walked away from the salary and drilled his first well in the Strawberry Trend of the Permian Basin. He did 2 in 1980 and 4 more in 1981. When the oil market collapsed in the 80s, he stayed. When other operators fled, he bought their land. And when the 2008 financial crisis hit and brought him within reach of losing everything, he described it as a near-death experience at the time. But he survived it and kept drilling. Over 4 decades, he built Endeavor Energy Resources into one of the largest privately held oil companies in the United States. His drilling rights covered 410,000 acres of Permian Basin ground, an area 400 times the size of Central Park. The company employed over 1,100 people and was producing more than 420,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day before the sale. He never took the company public. He never gave quarterly earnings calls. He never hired a PR team or courted any of the analysts from Wall Street. All Stevens did was drill, buy more land, and keep a lot of the money in the company. His mode of transportation, according to those who worked closely with him, was old cars and Southwest Airlines. He was the richest oil man in the country, yet he flew economy to get to meetings. A longtime peer and founder of Pioneer Natural Resources described him as the Sam Walton of the oil and gas industry, the kind who built an empire while acting like it was just another Tuesday. So when Black Gold came to him, he agreed to participate. The Big Dog Rig and Autry Stevens became the backbone of the show from Season 2 onward. Without him setting that 50-day deadline, there is no Black Gold. He was the standard. Then came February 2024, and the Wall Street Journal published what he had chosen to share. He had been diagnosed with cancer. Autry Stevens was not a smoker, but the cancer had started in his lungs and spread. And it was that diagnosis, the one thing he could not outlast, that made him finally agree to what he had refused for 45 years. So he sold Endeavor. Diamondback Energy paid $26 billion for the company he had started with his life savings and a single well. Friends flew him to Houston in private jets for cancer treatments, and he kept working throughout. And though his work ethic never changed, the disease advanced anyway. Then, on August 16, 2024, Autry Stevens died. He was 86 years old, and the sale to Diamondback closed 1 month after his death. When asked once what his ambition had been at the beginning, he said he just wanted a steady paycheck and a comfortable retirement. He got something unimaginably large and ran out of time to sit with it, and ended up selling his life's work not because he wanted to, but because his body gave out before his will could. Yet he wouldn't be the only one with billions on the line. Mike LaMonica, This is the man who came into Black Gold with more money at stake than almost anyone else in that field, with billions of dollars on the line. And then he lost everything. And for many, the way that happened was beyond bizarre. Mike LaMonica was a senior partner at XL Petroleum out of Midland, Texas. And when Season 1 started, he had not one rig in the race, but two. Both the Longhorn and the Viking rigs belonged to him and were fully funded by his company. Both had crews counting on him to pull oil from the ground in 50 days, and neither rig found what they came for in time. Both drilling operations fell short by the end of Season 1. And when Season 2 arrived later, the show did not follow his rigs anymore. Only the big dog remained, and that was because Autry Stevens had funded it. LaMonica was now gone from the series entirely and was closed off without resolution, final interview, or even a chance to make things right. But here is one detail most viewers didn't know. One of the most private aspects of Mike LaMonica's life was who he was really away from the rig. It turned out that beyond being a wealthy guru with billions of dollars in his name, Mike was also a committed Catholic deacon who spent weekends serving his church community. He told the Huffington Post that he cringed whenever he heard the bleeping and rough language in the show's edits, believing he could make a difference by being the one guy doing things the way he believed was right and just. And to do this, he bet two of his biggest companies, but ended up losing everything and getting quickly sidelined. Cheston McElhaney. This man had survived many things, including 2 assault arrests, being fired from the show, making moves that nearly cost people their lives, and losing a dangerous barroom brawl title to Tank Hannon on camera. Yet, that wasn't the worst part. What came after the cameras left was yet another assault arrest, a substance abuse battle, and a train wreck left of his life at the end of everything. He came to Big Dog 28 as an oil field worm. He was the most inexperienced hand on the rig, the one guy nobody trusts, the one who makes the mistakes that get people yelled at. He earned that label quickly, as his mistakes genuinely threatened lives on multiple occasions. He pushed drillers past their limits, got fired from the day crew for mouthing off, and yet he kept coming back. Many found him interesting because he struggled visibly and irritated the people around him. He also showed a pattern of appearing when it would have been easier not to. But what came after the show was a lot harder to deal with. In 2012, he was arrested in Grand Junction, Colorado, on charges of assault and menacing. Then in 2021, Collin County, Texas records show he was arrested again on a charge of assault that caused massive bodily injuries to a family member. And on top of these clashes with the law were substance abuse struggles that had surfaced even while the cameras were still rolling. The pressure of oil work, the sudden exposure of a reality show, and a personal disposition that was never well suited to being watched by a national audience all landed on him at once. Cheston may have had just a few victories on screen, but he also had a tragic life afterwards that the cameras no longer covered. Gerald Williams. The show called him a legend in Season 3, but also fired him twice. With 32 years of experience in the field, he also lost his thumb in a past accident that happened off camera, survived a massive fall in the middle of work that broke several bones, passed his drug test on camera, got his job back, and then failed another test later that same season and got fired yet again. On the Longhorn rig in Season 1, and then again on Big Dog 28 across multiple seasons, Gerald was the veteran everyone respected. By Season 2, the storyline was already in motion before the first episode ended. Gerald's return to the rig was conditional on that test. When he finally cleared it, the episode celebrated, but later on in that same season, the description gave a very different story. Gerald Williams had now made one poor decision that forever ruined the course of his life. As the showrunners described, his impulses got the best of him, and he got fired again. Though he returned in Season 3 under the on-screen title of Legend, being called a legend didn't come close to a firing and a failed drug test. So life beyond the cameras and the years that came after was an ultimate nightmare. He would spend years dealing with the physical aftermath of addiction, and his story never got a clean ending, and the cameras never stayed long enough to show what one looked like. Josh Wheeler. This was the twin who risked his job on the rig and faced painful consequences. The other twin got beaten by a co-worker and pressed felony charges. Both happened in the same season and on the same rig. Neither of them chose the trouble that found them, but both of them paid a huge price for it in front of a camera. These were the Wheeler twins. They came to Rig 28 together, and for a long stretch of the show's run, they were two of its most recognizable figures on set. Josh Wheeler was the one with the second job. He had been riding in rodeos on the side while employed on the rig, and when the show found out, it became a damaging storyline. Josh was trying to ride and make bank while also holding down one of the most demanding jobs in West Texas. It was a gamble that could have cost him everything, but as for his brother Aaron, his struggles would be permanent. Aaron Wheeler. Coming up last on this list is Josh's twin brother Aaron. And with him, the already bad situation only got a lot worse, yet he had no say in anything that would happen to him because of it. During a tense situation, Aaron was the guy Brandon chose to assault, and the attack was so brutal that it ended in court. Watson was forced to turn himself in to federal marshals, but Aaron was left to carry the long-lasting scars of an incident that didn't need to happen. After that, Brandon became a fugitive in 2021 for assaulting a peace officer. Then, in December 2022, he showed up uninvited at a house in Minnesota, fought a man named Joseph Scogan, and ended the person's life. Then he pleaded guilty in 2024 and went to prison. There are more tragedies associated with the show, but we'd love to hear them from you. Which of these people stayed with you the longest? Is there someone from Black Gold whose story we missed? Leave it in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now click on the next video on your screen. You will enjoy it. Until next time, dear viewer, take care.